And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Two Schmoes Show, the home of not one, but two Schmoes, perhaps three Schmoes if we ever feel like, I don't know, homunculus or something like that.
If Mike Pence ever returns our calls.
Mike Pence, stop being so hard to get. It was cute at first. Now? No. I know you're listening to this, Mike. Could you imagine a Mike Pence show?
It would be interesting for sure. I think I'd kind of hate it.
I just want to pick on him. I would just pick on him the whole time. Like, obviously, every time he would start like going on his little right-wing tangents, I just ask him, "What's your opinion on Sonic the Hedgehog, fucking 2014 or something like that?" Wait, when did that movie come out?
Oh God, when did it? It's longer than I think. It feels like it was like 5 years ago. I know I'm gonna look it up now and feel old. Oh, it was only 2020. Okay.
2020? Okay. Regardless.
Yeah, just COVID making everything feel awful.
COVID has changed so much how I perceive. Regardless, Mike, I just want to hear your dedicated opinions about fucking Sonic the Hedgehog 2020.
Have you seen the bumper sticker that's been going around?
No, please go on.
I gotta see if I can find this. It was going around. It's not Sonic. Here we go. I'm gonna send you this. I want your live, unfiltered reaction.
Christian moms against Shadow the Hedgehog.
They have T-shirts too.
They?
Yeah. Most of them are kind of slop, but you know, I think it's very funny.
1 second, I'm Googling it. Christian moms against Sonic the Hedgehog, popular satirical internet meme, oriented. Fuck Google AI. There's the Etsy shit. Oh.
$12.
Yeah, that looks like Yahweh for the. Is that fucking porn?
Almost certainly.
God damn.
You can't say that you're against Sexy Shadow the Hedgehog fan art if you don't also have an example of what Sexy Shadow the Hedgehog fan art looks like.
I guess that's true. It's like it's like people who say they're against woke shit in movies, but they never can identify what's the woke shit.
Yeah.
You know, okay, that was another reason why I knew Supergirl was going to be a rough time. Everybody was actually critiquing it as a movie, and there was no comments about it being woke because it had a woman in it.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned this. I've been reading through some of the Supergirl comics.
Have you now? How are they?
I have. Way better than I thought. There's a lot more nuance to the character than, I mean, they've had such few modern film and television appearances that you only really have like third-hand tellings of the comics or what people gleaned from like the 80s and 70s movies, which aren't good, to be clear. So there's certainly, I feel like, stigma and misinformation, and I've been enjoying it a lot. There's a lot more depth to the character, especially this particular iteration that I saw recommended, and it's a good read.
That's good. I think, and this is just me as a comic books nerd, I think there is like a hidden layer of nuance with books that are very hard to tell people how to like relate. Because like for years we had the fucking Superman sucks kind of shit, right? But like as James Gunn has shown, there is a nuance to the character, and like even those Christopher Reeves movies had like nuance to Superman, and like it's so hard to show that nuance, and most people just gravitate toward Batman because Batman's kind of just the easiest one to look at face value and get.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's especially a shame, as I've learned more about this particular Supergirl iteration, that Gunn kind of blew the shot already with it, because you can really easily see this. I'll say up front, the reason I saw it recommended was because people have, when it was first doing its runs, and when it first had its runs, it was seen as a lot of like trans allegory kind of stuff.
Okay.
So I've seen it brought up in that kind of conversation, but there's also elements to it in the same way that we talked about with Brand New Day, where you have those themes, but those themes can also be applied to other topics, other feelings of inclusivity or not feeling sure about your personal identity and trying to find those things. And in this particular one, the sort of core premise is that Supergirl sort of melds with this other person in order to save their life because they couldn't save their life otherwise. And they have like this not quite split personality, but this mix of personalities that are trying to coexist with each other. And Supergirl, as she learns about the life of the person that she basically took over in order to stop the person from dying entirely, is finding out that this person was kind of shitty for a really large part of their life and is having to grapple with that split of being a good person and wanting to do good and help people, and also having now a history of being a really shitty person.
Okay.
And that's something that I think could be explored in some way, and it feels like a real lost chance to not have that now, especially off of how successful Brand New Day was.
I do think we will see something of a influence from Brand New Day and a lot of superhero shit coming up soon.
I agree. Yeah. And to take the optimistic approach, because I've been trying to do that, maybe this sets the groundwork for that in the future, where we have to have more of the muted baseline Supergirl before we can have that contrast with other iterations.
Possibly. I think, I don't know, it's so interesting because, like, I'll admit it, I'm not much of a DC person. I only have like a very passing knowledge of Supergirl. But I do understand, like, there's a reason this character stays and she's not just kind of thrown to the back as just like the female spin-off character. So it is interesting to hear that kind of stuff. There is like, I know there's depth to it. I just don't know what it is yet.
Absolutely. DC has definitely not had any helps with the MCU just doing gangbusters.
Yeah. It is one of those things where I kind of don't... If I was to do a DCU, right? I don't think I want movies. I think if I were to do a DCU, I'd just stick to television. Like, I'm not talking about like those kind of shitty CW shows, right? Like, there are opportunities in television for comic books, and it pains me that Marvel just kind of shat the bed on them. I think something like Batman works very well as a TV show, and like there's endless Batman media out there, but like do a fucking like case of the week type shit with Batman, slaps.
That's interesting. I think I can definitely see that.
Yeah. Well, like, okay, you know about the death of Gwen Stacy stuff, right?
Of course, I've seen Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. Well, I think the death of Gwen Stacy is something that could not be done wholly well in a movie. I think you need a long-form storytelling medium to really hit how Gwen is supposed to be like a staple of like this narrative, like a part of the comfort show, and then taking her away like that is more jarring. To only have her for 2 movies and kill her, that doesn't make sense to me. I think
yeah,
sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I think that's a big problem with most superhero films in general, is that because they are so relatively short and so spaced out, they're not good ways in order to explore those larger themes, those narrative devices that comics do well. They don't translate in the same way.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely that. I think if I could reboot the MCU or like the DCU, television is where I would go. Do a fucking Spider-Man show where it is like villain of the week type shit, and you have him go through like a semester of school for the season. I'm cool with that. that has potential. And then just like next season, oh, he's up a grade. Next season, he's graduated. Now we're in college. There's so much you can do with that progression of time. And like, this is kind of like a symptom of streaming, right? We don't get to spend time with characters as much as we used to, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's part of the strength of the Holland movies. Brand New Day would not hit as hard if you didn't have Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home. Those three films help build Brand New Day. That's a fact.
Turns out people like seeing character growth.
Turns out we do like character growth. That's why I like reading. Like, I think, especially with like a book, time moves very strange in books, right? But like, you still get that time with those characters in that narrative.
I do wonder about that with, obviously the Harry Potter stuff comes up a lot in the spaces that I'm in, where there's so many overarching questions of like, to get the obvious ribbon here, death of the author comes up a lot, particularly with J.K. Rowling. And the best response that I always love is that death of the author only works when the author is dead. Right. Yeah. If the author is alive, it's just sort of as like a core concept. It's not the same thing that you're talking about. And it's brought up a lot of discussion about why do people care about these things, to the extent that they do, because it is kind of weird where these are children's books and they're not particularly good. Like, they're not bad, to be clear. I don't think a lot of the takes that try to paint the books as just bad entirely are really either convincing or productive, because obviously people like them. If people didn't like them, they wouldn't care in the first place, and there wouldn't be an argument to be had. So I think it is worth looking at why people do like them. And I wonder if that's a part of it, where even if they're 6 out of 10 books, there's still 8 of them. And there's characters through all 8 of them that people have been reading for years and hours and in effect growing up with, learning these characters' lives and what makes them people. And that is, I don't know what the word is, influential. Okay. People care about that, right?
Yeah.
And when you don't have that, I agree. You feel it. You don't care.
I think it's part of the reason.
How many people are asking for a Captain Marvel movie?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, that's kind of why I think there's such a slope in quality, like, not investment, really, between like Endgame and like this new era of the MCU, because people just didn't have that investment in those characters, and they just were trying to run into shit without the investment. Like Spider-Man, everybody's always invested in Spider-Man, but you don't have like, you kind of have to start from square one with a lot of these things and like reintroduce these characters in new roles.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that's why Thunderbolts was so good, I felt like, because it did that in a way that felt intentional.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting comparison that can be made between the Black Widow movie and how it set up Black Widow's sister, Yelena, and Thunderbolts, and how Thunderbolts does it.
It's the night and day difference.
It really is. Let's talk real news, because we do unfortunately have some this week.
Jesus.
No Jesus this week. It's the other guy.
Buddha?
No, the one that thinks they're that. No.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'll give you $1 if you can name the Mormon one.
Joseph Smith.
No, it's also Jesus.
No, you said Mormon. Mormon means Joseph Smith.
No, the Mormons think that there's going to be the third coming of Jesus.
Yeah, I know that. But Joseph Smith.
That's what I meant. I know.
You presented it as if it was an exclusive thing.
No,
yeah,
I meant their. Anyways, Trump has decided that Canada is no longer going to be our ally and making it everyone else's problem. There's a lot of reporting going around, circling around this, talking about things that are happening behind the scenes. And there's a lot of uncertainty as to what's actually happening in regard to this. But we have gotten some information out of it. And regardless of what the actual text of these documents that's going back and forth is, we had a statement that came out from Mark Carney this week that was pretty damning of the US government. They aren't happy with the way that they're being treated, and understandably so. And the types of demands that we're seeing talked about, just even as like a concept, are pretty clearly absurd. And all of this is happening in the context of Trump deciding to slap a 50% tariff on Canada, kind of seemingly out of nowhere. It seemed like the tariff stuff had kind of died down for a while, and now all of a sudden he's just decided to do it again. Like, he has it as like a hobby, and he stopped doing it 3 months ago, and now he's found that again on his desk, and he's decided to do it again. Very little rhyme or reason, especially as the situation in Iran stays kind of shit.
Yeah.
So to highlight the insult that what I'm going to say are our Canadian friends are feeling over this, and why they are quickly deciding that they may not want to be our friends for long, we have a bit of a summary here of what some of these demands that were made are. Restrictions on Canada's right to pursue independent global trade deals, specifically veto power for the United States to turn down any trade deals that Canada tries to make. Changing the French language rules in Quebec, in effect meaning that the French language rules go away. Demands to eliminate Canadian cultural content quotas. In particular, that is the Canadian Online Streaming Act, where all media in Canada, a certain percent of it has to be made in Canada, which is a pretty major thing for them. That's a big part of why they have a film industry at all, given how small their population is. Exclusion of heavy vehicles from tariff relief, in particular related to Ford and General Motors plants. Dismantling of the Canadian dairy supply management in its entirety. Demands for Canada to align domestic tariffs automatically with U.S. trade policy. Full elimination of provincial liquor board restrictions on U.S. alcohol imports. Forced synchronization of pesticide and agricultural chemical regulations. New U.S. intellectual property rules extending drug patent protections. It goes on. The through line of this, and this was something that Carney brought up, is that for whatever reason, Trump seems to I don't get it. It's clearly not a negotiating tactic, because it's a terrible tactic for negotiating. There seems to be this concept within the federal government that Canada is somehow leeching off the US in some way, in the same way that they feel like the states leech off of the federal government. And it's just not true in any capacity. And these are the kinds of things that would still be quite draconian, but would make some more sense in the context of the federal government trying to dictate what a state can and can't do. But even then, some of these are completely ridiculous. Like talking about the language rules. If the federal government decided to say that, Texas can't have signs that are also in Spanish, it would obviously be stupid. A shitload of people there speak in Spanish. That's just the language that they use.
Yeah.
And it's insulting. Our Canadian neighbors are insulted by this, and this could be the first step in not just a breakdown of public relations between the US and Canada, but a full break in trade relations, where this is the kind of thing that's going to push them to seriously consider long-term shifts to their supply chains to other countries, particularly Europe.
You remember how FDR had the good neighbor policy? Yeah. Whoever's next after Donnie is going to have such an overhaul of that fucking good neighbor policy coming through. 1930s, I'm calling it.
Yeah,
100 years later. Yeah.
We need a new deal, basically, unfortunately. And it's going to take decades to restore all this stuff in the same way that it took 100 years for us to get to where we are today.
Yeah.
the weird thing about all of this, because there's a lot of, do you remember, I think it was 2 years ago, we had the report come out that Russia was sending a shitload of money to particularly right-wing streamers, not to change the content that they were saying, but basically to have them continue to say the same things that they always had been.
Yeah, just to make them persevere.
Right. The subtext to that was these people were already saying the pro-Russia messages, and they didn't need to give them talking points in order for these people to basically do Russian propaganda.
Yeah.
That's also been a through line in Trump's administration, is that a lot of the stuff that he does indirectly, but in very specific ways, also has helped Russia, like threatening funding to Ukraine, trying to choke oil in Iran, promoting Russian oil in the process. This particular one is weird in that case, because the first place Canada is going to go for other stuff is Europe. It's not going to be Russia. It's not going to be beneficial to them in the same way that a lot of these things are, like interrupting oil markets. It's very strange.
It is. I don't get it. Like, they keep saying America first, America first. Literally everything they do is just short-sighted, and it only serves like a greater purpose to other people who rely on the US to go down in quality.
There's a really interesting perspective, I think, that explains a lot of it. It doesn't justify any of it, but it explains a lot of it. You know, the LBJ line about if you can convince the lowest white person that they're better than the highest black person, you can pick their pocket and they won't even notice. Maybe that wasn't LBJ. That was probably one of, I don't remember. Regardless,
sounds like Nixon.
Some variation of that has been a Republican policy for a while. You don't have to do things for your constituents to actually improve their lives, as long as the things that you're doing are hurting the other people, and that in effect makes your target demographics feel like they're better. You're doing, you know, systemic racism to give people less opportunities for school and jobs. You're doing these, like we're seeing right now with voting, right, in the South, where they're gutting these majority-minority districts, minority-majority districts, in order to strip representation in the government. These don't meaningfully change anything, but having black and brown people having their rights stripped away makes these people who are frankly racist feel better about themselves in comparison. And it's the same reason why when you talk about, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion, reparations, anything in that wheelhouse, they feel personally insulted in the same way, where even though it's privilege, right? That's all of this. Even though that they as individuals are not having anything taken away from them to improve these lives of other people, because someone else is getting a thing and they aren't getting a thing, they feel like it is.
Oh yeah, totally.
And I think we're seeing that on an international policy scale. America first doesn't mean we do things for America. America first means we make everybody else hate us and treat them like shit.
Yeah. I don't get it. I don't know what you're fucking...
It's failed policy. It's entirely failed policy, but that's the problem with populism. Yes, is populism, is that the populists can come in, the nationalists can come in and lie day in and day out about what their agendas actually are, and because the people who are trying to play by the books of democracy and by republicanism in the, you know, small r not big R sense, because they're trying to play to the letter of the law through debate and fair elections, they're always on the back foot. Yeah. It's the whole, a lie can go around the world in the same time that the truth is able to put on its shoes. I do think, for a little bit of optimism here to close off this piece, we're starting to see the other side of that coin, where we saw this in the 30s, right? And in the 40s and in the wake of World War II. When populism strives, the answer to it is socialism. And we're starting to see that with the Democratic Socialists in the US. The core Democratic Party is not unpopular, but untrusted. People don't feel like they have the capacity to enact the changes that fix the problems that we have right now, even in the face of the other guys being obviously worse. And that's driving people in droves to these more fringe kinds of political philosophies that I subscribe to. And those are able to do the same thing in the opposite way of populism. Rather than saying all of these lies, they're able to be like, no, we can just do big government stuff and enact the changes that we're actually going to do. Like we've seen with Mamdani, where you have these legitimate channels, but you don't tiptoe around to try and keep the corporations and the capitalists happy. You just do your job and make it publicly known that you're doing your job. And that wins over people so quickly.
You know, I'm not saying like anything about socialism here. I'm saying like it is very strange to me that Mamdani, I don't even think he's a fucking socialist of a socialist. He just does his goddamn job and actually like puts out for his constituents, and he's called a socialist for that. He
is part of the Democratic Socialists of America Party, to be clear.
Okay. Yeah,
which is still a part of the Democratic Party. It's a splinter group of it. Same as Abdullah Sayed.
Yeah. Okay. I should rephrase that. I don't see it, what he has done so far, as necessarily holding up to like an extreme socialist value, but like just with like what he does, he is, has that title right there. Yeah.
And that is by design. That's the entire point of the systems of government that we've built. And I think that is why the American government system is so respected and so copied internationally, because it does really effectively work as a bulwark against extremism. It makes it really hard for either side of the political spectrum to get a significant foothold because of the checks and balances that are built into it, particularly through the justice system, the courts, right? We have strong laws, we have strong fundamentals, and those do usually work. And it is only when we get to the particular extremes that we're seeing right now that extremes in the other direction come up. And I completely agree. Mamdani is not doing anything particularly surprising or socialist or communist as people like on Fox News would like to paint him to be, but it's effective because part of it, just as much of it, is a messaging thing. And socialists are better at messaging than conventional people who are supporting of a republic or a democracy. Capitalists, I guess would be the way to put it.
I was about to say, what is even a Democrat at this
point? It's really hard to pin it down.
Yeah. I think
calling them capitalists is the effective way to do it.
Yeah. I think Kamala really broke the party.
To put a finer point on that, Kamala not firing the idiots that kept trying to police the way that Waltz was talking is what broke the party.
Okay,
because they had strong messaging. Both Harris and Waltz had strong messaging to start with until their advisors started to hear what they were actually doing and shut that down.
I will say this. I don't mean Kamala the person. I meant more Kamala's campaign.
Yes, the campaign, 100% agree.
Yeah, that campaign was rough.
The other big news we have for this week, unless you have something more for socialism.
I don't think I'm particularly a socialist or anything like that, but I do think that their values, tools of political management are very nice nowadays.
Yep. I will gladly say that I am a socialist.
That's perfectly fine. No, that's perfectly fine. I think this is just
big shock.
Yeah. I think, and this is just me, and I'm not trying to come off as like a moderate or anything like that. I think every political leaning is nothing more than a set of tools, and that you have to apply the tools to those problems. And at these problems we have right now, socialism is
it's an effective tool.
Yeah, it's a very effective tool, and I like it in the toolbox, and I want more of it in the toolbox.
Yes, absolutely.
And I don't mean that in the centralist annoying way. Fuck most annoying centralists.
The centrists are very frustrating.
Isn't it?
Yeah. It's to the point now where I will say I never really believed them, but now I definitely don't believe them.
I think
in basically
there was a
any
point.
respect.
There was a point I would believe them. At this point, it's either ignorance or you're just a goddamn liar.
I feel like I have long held that ignorance is just an excuse for someone's actual opinions. It's a shield to hide the parts of themselves that they know are unsavory.
That's fair. That's also very fair. I think I do have a little bit more respect for people who are on the right and know they're on the right. Not everybody on the right has to agree with everything on the right. Don't get me wrong, but at least they're willing to take a stand. They're at least, willing to say like, accept the risk of what they're saying, as opposed to Joe Schmo. I'm just going to grill here and bitch about seeing a woman in my video game, God of War, Lofi, or something like that.
I feel like the window has just shifted so much that that shouldn't be the spot that we have to compromise on. Like, what is still the fundamental beliefs of the guy that's publicly speaking out one day out of the month, right? I still disagree with that so fundamentally. And I find there to be so much hypocrisy today, especially, that I don't believe them. Maybe they're not lying to the public on purpose, but at the very least, they're lying to themselves.
There you go. I think people, okay, here's a big thing, right? This is my biggest, truest opinion. People are very good at lying to themselves nowadays, and it disgusts me. Everybody
it's easier
lies.
Than ever.
Yeah, everybody lies to themselves. Social media has made that more easy than ever. And y'all need to fuck off with that. I think people need to be more critical about themselves. This is coming from a guy who hates himself. So I'm very honest about that shit.
I think a lot of that ties into how we're seeing so much more conspiracy theories these days, where people, it feels like they don't want to think about stuff. They want to have easy answers that make them feel important.
I'm in the know.
And it's so easy to find those answers now.
I think people just don't care enough about themselves as well.
It's possible.
I mean, look at AI. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah. AI.
I
think
do agree.
Best indicators for that, because people get to cosplay it, be an artist. And I think they missed the whole point of being an artist in the fucking first place. Like this is one of my favorite things here, right? Making art is never about the end product. It's about becoming. It's about learning what you like. It is about finding what you like, knowing how to refine what you like, refining yourself through the process. It is all about becoming. An AI, that stupid fucking chatbot, making a thing for you, and you passing it off as your own work, is cheating yourself. You should fuck off.
Let me see if I can find this real quick. There was of all the damn things, there it is, a Star Trek Magic the Gathering card that, let's see if I can find a better resolution picture, that was making me kind of mourn the loss of a genre of science fiction because of AI, where it used to be a staple of the genre. The idea of the artificial intelligence that tries to be human but can't, and that recognizes because of what they are unable to, yet they still strive for that and try to reach for that. And how strongly that contrasts against the current state of AI. And how the sycophancy of it, the perversion of the idea of intelligence that underlies it, has eroded any telling of that concept that might be attempted in the current day.
No, you need to change the shift, right? You just make it about a person who uses AI realizing that they are losing their humanity. That they've become the AI that can't be evil.
Isn't that bleak?
Oh, yeah, it is bleak, but that's the only way you shock people.
That's awful. I mean, yes, very effective. This was the one that came up. And it was just like, yeah, we don't really get that perspective anymore.
I think this is the best part about being human, right? Even if you are like one of these AI bros, you still have plenty of time to change your perspective and to realize what you're missing out on. As bleak as that statement I made comes off, there is still time.
It's running out. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I do fear. Did you see? I think that might have actually been this morning. Is it McMahon, Secretary of Education?
I don't even. But
it's not Secretary of Education. No, it did not. Linda McMahon was on an interview circuit earlier today. I think it was today or yesterday. I don't care which one. Doesn't matter. Point of it was talking about the role of AI in schools, and it was just the bleakest thing I can imagine. They're talking about the way, and I have no idea if this is true or not, to be clear up front. They probably were pulling this out of their ass or deeply exaggerating about the reality of what's actually happening in this particular situation. But they were claiming that their best vision of AI in schools was kids at the start of their day sitting in front of a computer, looking at a screen, wearing headphones, just talking to a chatbot about the learnings that they were supposed to have that day.
They're trying to Socratic method a chat bot into teaching you shit.
I don't even know. But just the idea of kids showing up to school and spending the first 2 hours of their day not just not learning things, but actively degrading the tools that they might have to learn things in the future is awful.
Mm.
I hope it's not real. There's been so much that we're seeing now about the ways that interacting with AI stops you from being able to learn things in conventional methods in ways that are maybe not permanent, but lasting and dangerous. It's bad.
It is. It's like a whale in fucking online gaming. You know, those people who become like super invested into a gacha game that they have to keep pouring money into it.
Absolutely.
It's a funnel, because the more you rely on AI, the less you can do stuff without it, and the more you have to use it again and again and again.
Well, let's talk about some good news.
There's good news.
ABC is suing the FCC.
Yo, go Mickey, go!
This is going to be an interesting one. This is Disney alleging that the Trump administration is violating their First Amendment rights by waging a, quote, retaliatory campaign against ABC because the FCC disapproves of what ABC is broadcasting.
Now, I'm all for this. I want this legal battle. We live in a country where businesses have more rights than people. Let's do this. I'm ready for this.
I think this is a really important turning point too, where you're having these companies realizing that playing the fascism game is not working.
Not at all. Because they're not fascists. Like, in some way, I think they're like me, where they just recognize there's a fucking tool system here, and they're just using it for their own gain.
Right.
Yeah.
Hank Green, quite a while ago now, I think it was last year even, had a video that he put out that talked about explicitly this idea and why fascism within a capitalist system is so eroding and also compatible, where in a capitalist system, if there is a form of government and there's not a way to stop it, the best way to become profitable is to do things like bribes, to engage fully with that fascism. And we've seen that for 18 months now, where we've had companies like ABC, CNN go through and kiss the ring, give these massive millions and billions of dollars of settlements in these lawsuits that not even lawsuits, these criminal cases that the government tries to bring against them for the most banal stuff. And that game isn't working anymore is important. And that it was never working. I think is also important. From the perspective of these companies, I think you could argue that it was working, though.
If you're talking short term, yes.
Well, it depends on what your view of the long term is.
You're right. You're absolutely right about that.
Right? That's the insidious part of it in a capitalist system, is that if there's the possibility that Trump becomes God Emperor for life and you don't have to kiss anyone else's ring in the future, you're not going to be held to any other standards. The only option is to play along with the game. That's the same idea as like the AI accelerationist BS, right? At some point in the future, there's going to be a machine god. So in order to make sure that we're on the right side of that machine god's favor, today we have to screw over everybody else.
Yeah. You know what I miss?
What's that?
David Bowie.
Yeah.
Things were better when David Bowie was alive. I know this is a total sidetrack, but like, holy shit, we've gotten so fucked up.
Pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is going to happen to these people when the money dries out?
Unfortunately, I feel like we can look to the 2008 financial crisis for that answer.
Shut up.
I have seen more and more, though, that the degree that people are unhappy and informed today is very different than any other point in history. I feel like we're much closer to an Arab Spring moment than another 2008 financial crisis moment, in that information may not be wanted by people, but it is there. And when people realize that something is wrong, it's not hard for them to find that information that then confirms that part, that new perspective they have. And the way that they came to that perspective may not be the way that we want them to, that we would prefer people to, with, reason, right?
Yeah.
But people are coming to that perspective, and they're using the tools that they always have of being able to confirm every belief that you already have. And we're seeing these median positions shift past where the conventional Democratic Party is. Things like Supreme Court reform are popular in ways that I never would have expected in my lifetime in just a few years. The nature of ICE as an organization, people don't like it. Fundamentally, and they want it gone.
I do want to touch on that real quick.
Yeah.
Blows my mind how fast the feelings for ICE got cold. Unintended.
Yeah. I still find that encouraging, that as soon as people saw the reality of fascism, they knew they hated it.
Yeah.
I think that's encouraging. Because we still have this like 30% of holdouts that support Donald Trump and the Republican Party at large. And it does make me wonder how many of them just have never seen the reality of the way that these organizations are structured. And it gives me a little bit of hope that we might be able to, have a society at some point that doesn't exclude these people. That if we can show them what they were being lied to over, they might come around. Because we've seen a lot of that happen already.
I think there's a lot of hope for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think truly people don't know what they want half the time. And like you said, there's a lot of dopamine rush from just looking at someone and saying, hey, fuck you, I got mine, and like letting, a politician fuck them over, But
Absolutely.
I think the ironically, the worst part for all this is that it got into mainstream culture.
It did, especially in January of this year. You couldn't not see it if you were on social media.
Yeah. I think a lot of times, a lot of people never. I've been trying to ask myself a lot recently, right? What is pop culture now? Because like it's reboots and it's all the same things over and over again. Nothing changes. And it occurs to me, no, things are changing. It's just that politics have become pop culture, and that's really fucking scary.
Yes.
Yeah. And like, of course, it's going to be pop culture. Look who's the fucking president right now. What I'm saying is, I'm ready for things to get boring, and then we have like actually good shit to look forward to. Culturally.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great to live in uninteresting times?
Well,
I do think that there's an element to that, though, that because I've seen that sentiment quite a lot. I'm saying that a bit sarcastically, to be clear. People have always wished for that, and nobody has ever gotten it.
Yeah.
Everybody wishes that their children and their grandchildren can live in a perfect society where there's no conflict, and that's never happened, and it probably never will happen, unfortunately. But I do think that that is an important thing to strive for.
I think there was at one point where there were uninteresting times, and they were called the 80s. And that's ironically.
No, they were. I don't think they were.
Why you say that? There's a punchline to all this.
Go ahead. I'll have 2 words to say at the end of this. Yeah. I guess 3.
Well, it's because Reagan was president. He was very good at making people not pay attention to shit.
That's why sure. Yeah. I guess there's the difference there between things actually being good and people not being aware that things are bad.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean, though. In my opinion.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because the 2 things that immediately jump out to me is that is a perspective that is only true if you're a white person.
Exactly.
And I'm just going to say the Vietnam War ended in 1975, and there definitely wasn't any consequences from that.
What are you talking about? There never were.
Yeah. So
don't look outside.
I get your perspective, though, where there was the government made it easy for people who didn't want to pay attention to not have to pay attention.
Yes. That you put it in a very succinct way. That is exactly what I was getting at. And I think that's a little dystopian. I can't believe they got away with that.
It absolutely is. And we're still dealing with it today.
Yeah, because like a lot of these people who are that way, guess when they grew up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so much public policy of the US that started in the 80s or that stopped in the 80s, either during Nixon's term or Reagan's term, and we've never recovered from that.
Yeah. So fascinating. I think it's tougher now than it was necessary. And it's not even much of an opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends, right?
Yeah, it really does depend.
There's so many caveats that you have to put on anything like that.
Yeah. It's tougher now because it's easier to pay attention. That's what I mean.
It is definitely easier for the average person to perceive suffering, I think, even if they are not personally experiencing it.
Yeah.
Would you like to get some other news? Because we have a bit of actually quite a few things to go through still. This has not been on an uneventful week. The big news this week that I found interesting in the Iran war sector is that the USS Lincoln has finally been relieved from its service after, I'm curious if this article says, 250 days, more than 250 days uninterrupted at sea. One of the longest active deployments basically in the history of the U.S. Navy.
And that's disappointing.
The only reason that this happened is that, and there's a lot of reporting over this that was, I'm just going to say disingenuous, was intentionally mischaracterizing a lot of these points. It had its deployment finally stopped because there was too many people of the crew who were trying to kill themselves.
No.
There was a lot of reporting over this that was like people trying to jump overboard, not getting to the point where jumping overboard in the middle of the ocean means that you die.
Oh, that breaks my heart.
It's tragic. And I've seen so many stories of veterans, both current and former, that have talked about their personal experiences on extended naval tours, only up to like 100 days, 150 days during Desert Storm, Gulf War, Iraq War, and how mentally destructive that is, where it's like all of the worst parts of isolating in any other situation where you're stuck in a cramped space, you're unfamiliar, but then you also are at this constant amount of stress because of the work that you're doing and the proximity to this risk that you wouldn't normally have. And it just is never ending. So there's a two-pronged part of this, where one is that the Iran war, in any context, should have never gotten to the point where it lasted this long. And the fact that they finally had to capitulate and relieve the USS Lincoln with a different aircraft carrier is a very clear sign of the ways that the federal government is, frankly, losing. They are depleting resources that they don't have. The crew of the USS Lincoln is now a resource that they do not have at their disposal because of the way that they mismanaged this entire situation, right?
Yeah.
That is a massive loss for them. And the fact that they relieved them with another aircraft carrier goes to show that they're not expecting this to end anytime soon.
There is something kind of funny to Iran winning this by doing absolutely nothing.
It is. And I feel like that's a little bit of an exaggeration that we've seen in particularly social media. The idea that Iran is just sitting there and letting the US trip over itself. That's true to an extent, but we're also learning more and more and more that a big reason for why so many of these soldiers are on these extended deployments is because the government has just been lying about the damages that Iran has done to our bases in the Middle East, where historically we would have 2, 3, 4 bases in a relatively small area on the scale of war that soldiers could be cycled back and forth in and out of to get more and less stressful duties, closer proximity, further proximity from these conflicts. But because of the way that Iran has carried out their targeting with their drone attacks and the general resources that they have available to them at all, a number of those bases that would have been used for that purpose are no longer suitable for living in because they've been destroyed so much. So you have people, even though they're not on a boat, they're still stuck in a kind of shitty situation with no way out for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
There's also plenty of stories about, shipping in the strait returning to whatever period. And it kind of misses the point of, even though some shipping is happening, it's only happening in the context of great expense and great risk that is being taken. And in the greater context of the majority of the strait still being closed because it's mined. And it's impassable in large parts. Or if ships try to go through it, they get attacked by Iranian forces still.
Yeah.
So we're getting our asses kicked. And every person who talked about this before this administration knew that this was exactly the way it was going to go. But they thought they were different. And they're sure being proven wrong on that part. It will certainly be one to go in the history books, I'll say that.
What do we even call this war?
I think it's going to depend on how it ends.
The oh shit, my bad war? Okay, hear me out, right? What if you had to give a chance? How much do you want to bet this is going to go to the next president's life?
Oh, 100.
100, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, Donnie's not going to make himself look weak like this.
Absolutely not. And I think that's kind of an own goal, frankly, because just having somebody come in, in the, Rose Garden future that is, say, a Democratic Socialist president, just having somebody come in and be like, we're taking our troops home. Fuck this. You win the argument. Even if there's, elements of strategy that aren't worth it there, just taking that stance and being like, we're not doing this shit anymore. We are taking care of our own people first, not whatever the hell this is going to win people over. And the people who are going to be angry about it aren't going to be able to be loud enough over the families that are able to see their family for the first time in what will at that point have been 3 years.
Thank you, President Joe Rogan. I look forward to your campaign.
And it's ironic because the only ways that changes is if Iran actually attacks the US like Trump is so terrified of happening, which I don't see it happening at all, frankly. That's not something that is advantageous for Iran at all. They're actually in a really strong position now, and sort of forcing the issue in that way is just bad for them. Yeah. So the only way that I see it changing the other way is if we do a ground invasion in Iran and that drags on. If that happens, bringing the troops home in that context is even more of a political win for whatever next administration comes. And honestly, that's even a bigger win for a more conventional Democrat, because then you don't have to do Supreme Court reform. You don't have to do dismantling of ICE. You can do day one, bring our troops home super trivially and get that easy win. So, next up here, what seemed to be the big news story of the week, if you actually looked at what is being talked about for some reason, in a weird, very Streisand effect kind of way, Natalie Harp has been in the news, the aide of President Donald Trump. Such a fascinating situation. All of this started off by a speech of John Ossoff earlier this month, where he said, while the sailors on the Lincoln fight his war, while he fruitlessly drains our munitions and oil reserves, the president sleeps through his meeting, he golfs, and he trades stocks. He doesn't want to do the job. He wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on their apparently defenseless flying palace gifted by the Emir of Qatar. And that 3 words, travel with Natalie, blew up. Searches for it went up like 5,000%. People were trying to figure out who the hell is Ossoff talking about here. And as it happens, this is someone that has actually been mentioned a couple of times in certain news circles in the perspective of, why is this person in the White House doing this job at all? What are they actually doing? Because I think this is a little bit of a coincidental part of it. We really saw Natalie Harp, one of the White House aides, come into a more prominent public position over the last year or so, I would say. And that has coincided with the decline in Trump's health. And as other aides have either quit or been fired, Natalie has moved into these more senior positions and is now directly reporting to Trump and assisting him. And the joke that was going around, that is frankly a little bit misogynistic, I think it's worth saying that on the out front, was that she was secretly somehow basically a nurse for him in his failing health, doing anything and anything that he needed for his comfort.
I mean, would a woman who's not his nurse ever need to be near him, though?
I mean, in the weird way that these people do not deserve any semblance of credit for, that is the misogynist point, though, right?
Yeah.
Where a woman would only be seen next to Trump if she's getting something out of it, or if she's doing, you know, physical favors for that person. But a guy could be next to Trump because he's just evil. Right? That's the dichotomy there. And it's certainly not a flattering one for the people who are in those positions. I'm thinking like the former press secretary and co. But that is an argument that I try not to make, because I think because of that, it's a weaker one.
I mean, I just found out about her like half an hour ago.
Yeah,
I totally get it.
Of course.
Yeah.
It is a weird situation, to say the least. Part of this being because Harp in particular is, I'll say this as a quick shout out. Aaron Rupar's daily newsletter, Public Notice, had a really good piece earlier this week going through who the hell this person is, what their history with the Trump administration is, and why all of this has exploded. It's much longer, very good, highly recommend it. The short version is that in 2023, Natalie Harp basically cemented herself as like a Trump groupie. Mm-hmm. She twice tried to get around Secret Service details and protocols in order to get close to Trump. One time by going in a maid's room at Trump's Bedminster New York Golf Club, and then sneaking into the trunk of an SUV that was part of Trump's motorcade. We also had, as part of the fallout of all of this week, reporting by Michael Wolff at the Daily Beast, revealing a pair of letters that Natalie wrote to Trump before being hired that are very weird and
not healthy.
Do not paint. Yeah, they don't paint a picture of somebody that is of sound mind.
Yeah, you showed me these letters, and I've got to admit they're quite the fuel.
Yeah. One of the big lines that was coming out of this was one where she says, I need to reunite my past self with my current into a better version who will make you proud. You, in this case, being Trump. And please, when I fail, will you tell me? You have the absolute right to cuss me out, if need be, when I deserve it, because no one knows or cares about me more.
She has real pick-me-girl energy in these letters.
Yes, it's very weird. It's very unhealthy seeming. It's very kind of sad. It's like a person that needs help, and they're not going to ever get it.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Have I ever told you about my theory of mens verbum?
I don't think so.
Okay. Basically, the idea is you can tell a lot about a person based off what words and how they phrase their sentences are. And I look at this, and every fucking sentence starts with an I, a we, or an I again. And it is so scary to me about how much this is like so self-centered at the end of the day about this, even though it's dawdling over Donnie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There is an element of that as well that I think is the way people write when they don't write often.
Yeah, no, because this reads like
it's like a high schooler.
Yeah.
That's something that I had to work really hard in my own writing to eliminate, to shift that focus away from the first person, because it's really easy to write that way because that's just how you think, right? It is trail of thought, like you said, and it takes effort to break out of that mindset, especially in a case like this where you're writing a letter to someone.
Yeah, because like I'm seeing statements, like, but there's no elaboration on the statements, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. I give this a D. Please see me after class.
Now, the other part of this has been very weird, not even weird, opportunistic pearl clutching by the exact kind of right-wing assholes that you would expect to try to take advantage of a situation like this. In particular, with the whole concept being that John Ossoff, a Democrat, said something remotely not polite about a woman. They, exact kind of usual suspects, have taken it and ran, calling Ossoff a bottom feeder. Who does this and holds their head high, Ari Fleischer says. Scott Jennings derides the party of the Democrats. Party of women? Pretty ugly stuff. It goes on and on. What a gross, misogynistic thing to say. Is it? I mean, it's effective political messaging, and it is really pathetic to see all of these people try to act like their boss doesn't do this all the time, telling women reporters to shut up, quiet piggy, and all of that stuff. It's such obvious grandstanding, and it thankfully rarely works anymore. These are almost exclusively the has-been types of people who are on their way out, if they're even anyone at all. But in a way, their talking about it has really amplified a message that I think a lot of people would have glanced past and brought it into more of a story than it would have been, because it was a non-story before. Yeah. It was, loose speculation. And it wasn't until people turned Ossoff's almost offhand comment into a news story in itself that Wolf's reporting came to the forefront with these letters. They weren't released yet until there was a story to talk about with them, because who the hell cares about this girl? Frankly and unfortunately, no one did.
Yeah. I mean, in all truth, besides the Donnie obsession, which is not even that unique to her, what is there to really speak of other than just how close she is to Donnie at this point?
Right.
Yeah.
The only thing that I've seen that has even come close to being newsworthy has still been talked about in the past tense entirely. And that's that she went almost a year without getting the appropriate security clearances for someone in a position within the Oval Office like hers is. That's a very standard thing where even if you're not an individual who is requesting or handling classified documentation for your own purposes, just because of the nature of your job, you were in such close proximity to classified information that you need to have those, you should have those clearances as a matter of protocol, as a matter of being certain that somebody like this isn't, trying to gain access to this information for nefarious purposes. And she resisted that for a year. And even then, that wasn't enough to turn that into a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now everyone knows who Natalie Harp is, and I guess in the end, that's probably all that she actually wanted, right? Proximity to power, to have power of your own.
Is that even power of your own, though?
I think people can convince themselves that.
I guess. You think we could start an internet rumor that she actually secretly works for the Ayatollah?
Probably not.
It'd be really fucking funny to see Donnie change right after that, though, because he would fucking believe it.
It would be. Auto-playing video should never exist. And I hate it.
Yes.
There's been some alleged GTA 6 leaks. And I've been struggling to figure out how to talk about them. Because while there are leaks, there have been no comments from Rockstar or Take-Two. There have been credible allegations that at least some of these supposed leaks are completely fabricated by ChatGPT or some other large language model. It's really strange. And especially underlying it is that there is a cryptocurrency, I don't want to say scam. I guess all of it's a scam. There's a cryptocurrency scam underlying all of these supposed leaks that are kind of tying it all together. That was the question that you raised to me, is why are these people doing this? And that's what I've been able to find, is that they're shilling cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
that they presumably have some sort of an interest in, where the price goes up, they sell it, they make their money. Basically a roundabout pump and dump in a way. And that's kind of supported by the idea that this group has been trying to literally pump the market cap of this cryptocurrency up in order, and claiming that when that happens, they will post more leaks. It doesn't have a lot more to it, I don't think, at this point. They claim that they have access to development Xbox kit, and that's how they're able to do this. But it all seems very sketchy, and I feel like there's not a whole lot to say past acknowledging that this is a thing that exists, and that given the scale of Grand Theft Auto, is making news headlines as a result.
Do you give a shit about Grand Theft Auto?
Not really. I'm not going to play it day one.
I kind of don't care either.
I played the story of Grand Theft Auto 5, and like, it's fine.
Played that when we were first fucking rooming together in college. I remember that.
Yeah. They're fine games.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say they're their favorite games.
I only ever hear people say that about Grand Theft Auto Online.
What the fuck's Grand Theft Auto?
Really? You don't know this?
No.
Oh, you're gonna hate this. That's how Rockstar actually makes all their money.
Is it just an MMO?
Yes, basically.
Okay, like Square does that with Final Fantasy 14, but okay.
This is a Kotaku article from 4 months ago. At the time, part of a leak, it was alleged that Rockstar was making $1 million per day from Grand Theft Auto Online.
Jesus.
Yeah. I've never understood that part of it. I think that there's some cool elements of it. I mean, you remember, you shared me this, the Shakespeare and GTA thing.
Oh shit, I do remember that.
That's through GTA Online. That's how they're doing all of that. Where that's the way that they're having the flexibility in everything to have it work outside of an already existing narrative context, right? Mm-hmm. It's a massive moneymaker for them, and we're in like year. I don't even know when did GTA Online come out. 2013. We are 13 years into it, and this is a $250 million a year game. So they've made a shitload of money off it, to say the very least, and they're going to continue to make a shitload of money off of it. I feel like that is a large part of where people's attention comes from, is like the same thing that happened to the Call of Duty franchise and most shooter franchises, where it started off with a thing that had a story, and then an online mode grew to be more popular than the story.
Yeah.
But it always had the story until it didn't. I feel like GTA is going that route, where the online part of it is just such a more consistent revenue maker month to month that Rockstar can't really afford to not keep that base happy.
Ah, yes, it's the fucking Elder Scrolls Online problem.
Elder Scrolls Online, I mean, it's weird though, because as far as I know, GTA Online doesn't really have the conventional, like, raid type mechanics that most MMOs do.
Mm.
It has the MMO part, but the RPG part is very different than a conventional game. And it has those parts, and that's where a large part of the appeal comes from. I know that's a huge part of the streaming part of it, is people literally role-playing as characters in this world and broadcasting that. So it's very different. And I've always been surprised to see parts of the GTA 6 conversation not talk about that more.
Did I tell you I'm dangerously close to getting into Final Fantasy 14 online? I don't even think it's online.
You know,
it's just
all
Final
I'll
Fantasy
say,
14. Yeah.
Smoke responsibly, drink responsibly. Addictions are bad, but there's a road to recovery.
I hear it's like crack. I'm very scared because I am an addict at heart. I know I have an addict's personality.
Yeah. From everything I've heard, it's a very good game.
Yeah.
So there's much worse MMOs you could get stuck on.
When are we getting Pikmin online? Imagine that.
You say that.
Where's the butt? I was expecting a butt after that.
It's a thing.
No fucking way.
Fan made, I believe. Let me double check this.
Oh, let's broadcast this nice and loud for Nintendo then.
Pikmin Online is an MMORPG made by Sir Pikmin. It takes place after Pikmin 2, but before Pikmin 3. The player takes the role of a Hokatian space captain. Hokatation, I think, actually, sorry. The player can fully customize their character, including name, gender, whistle sound, and suit, but cannot change anything after first creating them. The game is to be released to the internet for free. The player can upgrade to a premium account for only $5 to gain exclusive in-game perks. I don't see a release date. There you go. Pikmin Online is a thing.
It's real! Oh my gosh!
The Pikmin fandom entry page was created in June of this year, so probably not out yet. I am going to keep going with the news here so we can start talking about movies.
Oh yeah, because we have a fuck.
I wish I had better news. We'll end with the happiest one, I guess. Well, I guess two of these are more positive than not. Well, I'm going to start with the worst one, though. Texas prisons have started to forcibly detransition transgender inmates. This is as of, quote, a few weeks ago. This is really bad. Reporting over this has been slowly building and has finally been broached by a major trans-specific writer who posts these kinds of things and does research for these kinds of things. This is really bad, frankly. These are people who are incarcerated and are no longer being given the medical care that they were receiving prior to being incarcerated. And regardless of the context, that should never happen.
You know, this is something I do want to ask you because I know you're going to have a heartbreaking answer for that. Mm-hmm. And my little cis mind does not know this. What exactly happens when someone is in a place of like HRT that they have to get off the HRT? What exactly happens to the body?
So the really scary thing is if somebody's already had bottom surgery.
Okay.
Because then they can't make any hormones on their own anymore.
Oh, really?
Yes. So you're stuck without either testosterone or estrogen, and that is the same situation that women in menopause have. And you can imagine all of the usual symptoms that come with that are not good. The worst of those, though, is atrophy of the skeleton.
Really?
Yeah. Your bones need a hormone. One or the other, but they need one, or they don't grow right. They don't maintain. So you end up being at risk for broken bones, bruising, that kind of stuff.
In a prison, nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. For people who aren't in that situation, if you're just on HRT, it is going to be that all of the changes that you experienced through hormones are going to start to reverse. So in the case of a trans woman, big ones are going to be facial and body hair coming back, and where your body distributes fat on yourself. And that can be somewhat controlled in that context, but it's still bad. And a lot of people report more general mental health problems, you know, having their HRT being a major part of treatment for their depression, right? And
oh, yeah.
You can imagine what happens if you start just taking away people's medication for depression pretty easily.
Yeah, I fucking know that.
So
yeah.
it's pretty similar to that.
Yeah. Fuck.
It's bad.
That's very bad. Because like,
Thankfully,
just, like,
yeah.
No, I mean, like, I just want to like tell this to the audience, right? Like with depression, you don't build dopamine well, right? So, like, imagine you start building your dopamine back from like, I guess HRT would give you that, and then it just goes back to being dry again. Like that's a very important brain chemical, and your brain has to like reassociate itself to like get back that chemical. It hurts.
Yep. Yeah. That is what the big reason why access to transgender healthcare for children is so important, because the alternative is that children try to kill themselves. And we know this. So whenever you see somebody trying to argue that, oh, you know, transgender healthcare for adults is fine because they can choose, but for children, we have to do something to save those children. What they're actually arguing for is for children to be depressed and the consequences that come from that.
Very bad consequence.
Yeah. So, very disheartening. Fuck Texas.
They have a long way to go.
In South Carolina, a court ruled, this is the Fourth Circuit, that a South Carolina law placing restrictions on voters under 65 years old who wish to vote by mail is unconstitutional.
Hell yeah.
So the law, this is from Bloomberg, the law impermissibly gave benefits to older voters while not affording the same ones to younger people, a 3-judge panel said, running afoul of the 26th Amendment, which lowered the voting age to 18.
Good.
So this is good. I guess we'll see what South Carolina does. I wouldn't be surprised if they find some way to bullshit their laws and their voting process to just stop vote by mail for anyone. But this is a good ruling. I'm glad to see it.
Yeah, I agree.
We also had the acting U.S. attorney that was attempting to investigate and subpoena Letitia James has on appeal been found to have been serving illegally. We've had a couple of cases of these over the last year and a half where the administration, in desperation to push forward their U.S. attorney people who are willing to basically break the law for the government, they don't tend to get past being interviewed and being appointed in most cases. So they tend to be appointed illegally. And then on appeals, as we see here, those cases fall apart entirely because they're not acting in a legal capacity. This is what happened in James Comey's case, where the acting attorney in that situation filed at a time when they were no longer legally an attorney. They continued to pursue the case, and the case got thrown out, and they couldn't reapply for it. So, similar thing here. This was the case of Trump trying to harass Letitia James over, I think it was like renting out or loaning out one of her houses to a relative, trying to claim that that was somehow fraudulent because of the way it was or wasn't reported on tax information. None of that was true. It was just pretty obvious political activity, and thankfully, apart from that, the entire thing was also being done in such an obviously illegal way that none of that actually mattered in the end. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to file these charges again.
No.
Yep, they're shitty, awful people. Go figure.
And they don't know the law.
So true. Movies. Got quite a few actually. We're past the brand new day horizon. So we get movies again.
Spider-Man.
I hadn't missed this. I think, did I send you the trailer for Resident Evil?
No, you did not.
There is a Resident Evil movie coming out this year. And I dare say, it looks really good. Here, copy. For later, there's the trailer. It's excellent. I'm looking forward to it a lot. It is, I don't think, coincidentally releasing at the same time period of time that Alien Romulus did. That's like mid-September is just when, mid-budget sci-fi movies come out, I guess.
Yeah.
So it looks good. Lots of good zombie stuff going on. I'm looking forward to that. Anyways, in theaters this week, there's a new Insidious movie. It seems fine if that's your thing. 58% from critics, 70% from audiences. What number is this? Do you know? Do you care about these at all?
I will be blunt. I like horror in everything but movies. I don't like horror movies for whatever reason.
I kind of agree with that. There's just the format, I don't know.
Like, I will gladly eat it up in my fucking video games. I will eat it up in a novel like nobody's business. I can't get into movies. Like, I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Very good movie, by the way.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand. Like, I just can't understand the fandom for it.
That's really the thing for me. The best horror movies aren't scary. They're just good movies.
Yeah. My fiance, the infamous Sam, she is really gotten into that movie Pearl. I will say, good movie. I cannot match that energy of hers, but it's a good movie.
This is Insidious number 6.
Insidious.
We're into which one was that? Is it the Rocky?
Star Wars numbers at least.
I can't remember that. There is a joke a while ago about that. Anyways, that's a thing. You can go watch it. You can also watch Mutiny. This is a Jason Statham flick. I'm going to preface it with that. 51% from critics, 87% from audiences. It's a Jason Statham flick. If you like that thing, you know you like that thing. After witnessing his billionaire bosses, really, you don't know Jason Statham?
Not really.
I mean, you know what he looks like, right?
If you probably showed me a picture, I'll know it. But like, I'm terrible at celebrities.
But no, that's fine. He's this guy. He's British action guy.
Actually, I don't know who that is.
Really?
That looks like off-brand Woody Harrelson to me.
Let me do a quick double check. I feel like you have to have seen something that he was on. What's his best stuff? Sort by critic highest. Maybe not. He's been in quite a lot of the Fast and Furious movies now. That's his latest big thing.
Okay.
Do you know The Italian Job?
Nope.
Okay, well, you should see The Italian Job. It's quite good. Crank, Romeo and Juliet.
You're fucking with me. Who is he in that?
Tybalt.
I guess.
Yeah. Transporter series. It's a ton of, when you look through his thing, you remember the Meg?
Yeah, I know of it. I didn't see it.
Right. Of course, no one did. He was in that. He was the lead in that. Tons of movies of that caliber, right? Yeah. He's prolific. He's good at what he does, but he doesn't do a whole lot more than that because he's good at what he does, and he gets paid well to do it. Mutiny. After witnessing his billionaire boss's murder and being framed for the crime, Cole Reed boards a cargo ship on a one-man crusade to avenge his boss's death, only to discover an international conspiracy.
Sounds like slop.
What a curious plot. Isn't that funny?
I guess.
I mean, it's very obviously I feel like trying to play on Mangione, Luigi.
Oh, that's what you mean. Oh, hi, Sam. Yeah. He's busting into the room while we're recording. How can I help you? Can't. She's running in fear now.
Anyways, that was what people claimed happened to Mangione, that he was framed for his boss's murder and was on the run.
Oh, okay.
That is this movie.
That's why I was wondering you were getting at. I knew you were getting at something. I just didn't know what.
Right, yeah. Presumably Statham kills people, though, and I don't think Mangione did that. Other than maybe the one guy, but, that's debatable. Anyways,
yeah,
that's a thing that you can watch. I won't be.
I will not be watching.
We have The Magic Faraway Tree. Adapted from
I wonder
a
what
children's
it's
novel.
about.
A modern family forced to relocate to the remote English countryside. As they adapt to their new lives, children discover a magical tree and its extraordinary and eccentric residents, including a bunch of treasured characters, quote unquote. At the top of the tree, they are transported to spectacular, fantastical lands, and through the joys and challenges of their adventures, the family learns to reconnect and value each other for the first time in years. It sure sounds like Chronicles of Narnia, but maybe with less Jesus? You'll have to watch to find out.
You know, I was like probably in my 20s when I found out Aslan was supposed to be Jesus.
Yeah, I do kind of like how this is shot. Like this is pretty. There's an artistic vision happening here.
That does look nice. I like the pink.
Yeah, I don't know if it's working, but somebody's trying something, and I respect that.
You know, I think it's working on the sheer merit that we are acknowledging that something is being done.
You know what? That's fair.
Yeah. It's got interesting composition. Like there's pink on top, green at the bottom.
It does.
I wish our characters were a little darker in color so they would stand out more. Right. Yeah.
It's very much framed like a play and colored like a movie.
You know, I love that. That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah. Very flat, but in a appealing way, in an intentional way.
I agree.
Into the movies that you might actually go and see. One that we actually talked about a few weeks ago, Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma. Mostly only bringing this up because it has a lot more reviews now that it's getting a wider release. 95% from critics, very good. 79% from audiences, less good. The director of this one is the same director who did I Saw the TV Glow, Dana Schumbrun. Features Gillian Anderson and Jasmine Savoy Brown as the leads, and it is in a wide theatrical release now. So, like, you can see this as a celebration. I'm probably going to do that sometime while it's in theaters because it seems like it's a good movie.
Can you give me the name of that one more time?
Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma.
Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma. Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma.
That's a reach.
Yeah, it was a reach, but oh my god, I had to say it or else it was going to be in my fucking head, and I was going to wonder if it was funny or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes you just got to try it to find out.
Sometimes, yeah, that's comedy.
I actually learned. Let me double check this. I realized something. Is Celebration Cinema a Michigan chain?
Yeah.
Yeah. I never. That just never clicked for me.
Fucking love it.
I don't know why. I don't know why I never realized that. But yeah, that's nice. That's cool.
Yeah, it's our baby. Everybody else can go fuck off. Celebration is king.
Yeah.
In GR we have this thing called Phoenix Theaters.
They have a drive-in in Muskegon.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No.
Phoenix Theaters up here in Grand Rapids. I understand it might be a bit of a chain outside the state. And like you go by it and you can kind of like smell it doesn't belong here.
Yeah. Last one.
Yep.
Last movie for today. Tony. 19-year-old Anthony Bourdain stumbles into the chaotic world of a restaurant kitchen, setting off a summer that shapes the course of his life. This is a biographical drama.
You know, it was only a matter of time till this happened.
I'll say 95% from critics, 92% from audiences. That's pretty good.
Yeah. No, I'm down with that. I think Anthony Bourdain does deserve a biopic.
Yeah. I really like the casting for this too. This guy looks like 19-year-old what I would imagine a 19-year-old Anthony Bourdain would look like.
Do you think we'll ever get a Gordon Ramsay biopic?
If we do, and it comes out before he's dead, it won't be good.
No, you know, I'll say this, and like I know that we're jumping the subject a little bit, but this is a thought I've had for a while. Gordon Ramsay deserves this. I don't like. I'm not trying to criticize him too much.
Yes.
Selling out entirely.
I definitely think to a degree, for sure. It's, I don't know, selling out. The role that he plays is a very different one than Anthony Bourdain, right? Than Anthony Bourdain did. Anthony Bourdain to him is like the River Monsters guy to Bear Grylls, where their shows are superficially the same, but when you actually start to engage with it, you realize that one is much more about the thing than the presentation and experience of the thing.
I think Gordon Ramsay, on a surface level, right? He is a great way to get introduced into the world of culinary art, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't believe he's like where you should stop. I think you should look a little deeper than that. And I can't even talk. I'm not even that far into the culinary art stuff, but like, we're talking about a guy who has Hexclad as like his sponsor. He's got frozen food at Meyer now, not Meyer. Fickety fuck. Walmart. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think that does cause him to lose a little bit of his aura points. Don't get me wrong. I have had food of his though. And he still knows how to fucking make food. And impressive.
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously, he didn't get to where he was by being a hack, right?
Yeah.
He knows his shit.
Exactly. He's not like Guy Fieri.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely respect him. I just don't think. I think that this is the case with almost all biographical things. If the person who it is about is alive and able to editorialize it in any capacity, it's just not going to be as good.
Oh yeah. Looking at you, Bob Dylan.
Yeah. There's good stories to be told there, but they're usually not stories you can tell yourself. And for people in entertainment, especially, I think that's particularly hard to grasp.
Do you have a favorite celebrity chef?
Not really. I have been. I think I have to finally just acknowledge that I have cooking as a hobby now.
Okay.
I do really enjoy cooking, and I've been enjoying binging with Babish lately. YouTube cook.
Yeah.
Does a lot of really, good variety of stuff, applicable stuff, and I really appreciate that approachability.
I don't think cooking is so much of a hobby. I'm trying to learn about it to some extent. Yeah. However, I do acknowledge I think I do have a favorite celebrity chef. It's such a weird pick.
What's that?
Hiroyuki Sakai. Only because I'm a big fan of the original Japanese Iron Chef series.
Oh yeah.
He was the French Iron Chef. Yes. Anybody who wants to learn about cooking or at least finds cooking fascinating, watch Japanese Iron Chef. It is so cool. Yeah.
It became an icon for a reason.
Yeah, we bastardized it in America for a very good reason.
I do. It's so hard. For me, I would say the most influential person related to cooking for me isn't a chef. It's Alton Brown.
Oh, yeah, Alton's good. Alton is very...
He's not a chef, though, and he acknowledges that. He's an entertainer, and he's very good at it, but he's not really a chef. Of like actual chefs, celebrity chefs, probably like Emeril Lagasse has probably been the most influential for me.
I've had a couple of celebrity chef restaurants. Like, I've had Paula Deen. I've had Wolfgang Puck and Gordon.
Yeah. I went to Emeril's restaurant in New Orleans when I was there in college.
How was it? Oh, yeah, you did go. I remember you telling me that story.
It was really good. It was incredible.
Yeah.
It was very expensive, but I was glad that I did it.
It is expensive. Wolfgang Puck, though, the restaurant he has here in GR, not as expensive as I would think. It's still pretty good. Very quality.
Mm-hmm. There's still some good places that you can find out there. Yeah. There's some that are really overpriced, but if you got to try stuff, right?
Yeah, you got to try stuff. I think having a very restricted palate is one of the worst things you can do to yourself in this life.
Yeah. Well, that is all I have for movies.
Cool.
Anything else? I think that's kind of it. We covered the bases nicely.
Yeah, I thought this was very well done episode. Here we are just patting ourselves on the back like a bunch of assholes. But
well done, us.
Good job, us. Good answer. I'm the Infant Orion.
I'm Cairo, and I'm also a Schmo.
This has been the Two Schmo Show.